Cullen just counted me down to make the opening of the inaugural episode of Missouri Swagger with Cullen and Dennis. Very awkward. So yeah, this is the first episode. We're just feeling things out. We're calling it Missouri Swagger, even though that's a stupid name and has nothing to do with what we do, because I feel like the Show Me State deserves a little bit of love.
Yeah, and we are the two most prominent creators in Missouri. Forget Jason Aaron, forget Matt Kent,
Kansas.
Is he in Kansas?
Kansas, yeah.
Oh, well, he doesn't count then.
Nope,
We'll forget
doesn't count.
Matt Kent, Chris Somney, Brian Hurt, those guys, they don't count.
I feel like even though you're not from here, we're both way more Missouri than those people are.
I've lived in Missouri long enough now. I think I qualify as a Missourian or Missouri.
Absolutely. So we're going to come up with a subtitle at some point that has something to do with comic books, because obviously that's what we do. You know us from our amazing work on...
Let me throw this out there to you,
what?
Dennis. Missouri Swagger, Comics, Boards, and Baggers.
Absolutely not. That is the worst subtitle.
Oh, I'm going to get that trending on Twitter. Comics, Boards, and Baggers, Missouri Swagger.
So yeah, Cullen and I have been trying to figure out a way to take our very entertaining conversations that we have on the regular about life and work and the history of the two of us out there so that people can get to know us. And we've been trying to do that for like well over a year. But we both had
a year.
I guess here it has to have been at least 9-10 months, right? We've been trying a long time.
It's been a while.
Scheduling delays and weird stuff in our personal lives and all sorts of stuff got in the way. But we're going to do this thing and just throw it up, and warts and all. I've been watching first episodes of other people's YouTube channels and shows and things, and they're always a mess, so screw it. So yeah, we just want to share our beautiful relationship and the amazing art that comes from it with the world. And I think
yes, the beautiful relationship. Our shared animosity towards one another.
Yes. Well, you're a monster.
That's right. I was just asked maybe 3 or 4 days ago about my hatred of you in an interview. Someone asked if I really didn't like you.
People think it's serious. It's the best thing about it.
Yeah, well, it is serious coming from me.
I named my child after you.
All right, fair enough. But yeah, I like that we keep getting asked about it.
Yes. Well, yeah, it's funny. People take everything seriously. I don't know. It's also the case that for some reason we have a weird relationship with our fans that a lot of the people who hate me the most are your biggest fans and vice versa.
Yeah.
I think our styles are different and we both run X-Books at the same time. We get a lot of, like my biggest detractors are huge Cullen Bunn fans and vice versa.
Right, but I'm trying to sway all those Dennis Hopeless fans over.
Is it working? Well, you're more prolific than I am, so I think
no, it is not working. Your fans still don't like me. There's a small subsection of people that like us both.
Yes.
And they are ostracized by both the other groups of fans.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. So it's San Diego Comic-Con week, and are you going?
No, are you?
Oh no, absolutely not.
Wow. So, I was going until about 10 days ago or so, and I looked at the convention, I looked at the trip, and I decided that what I would get out of the trip was not worth it. I would lose so many days of work, and I just decided to pass on it this year. And I go back and forth. Sometimes I regret that decision, and sometimes I'm happy about that decision.
Yeah, it's a weird thing to not be going, because you have this like a little bit of FOMO, and also every book gets announced, so you feel like your career is sliding off a cliff because all these people are doing books you didn't know were happening, which is ridiculous.
I'm already feeling that. That's the announcements have already started, so I'm already feeling that moment of why are all these people getting so many books and not me?
It's a strange, like, ongoing anxiety in the life of every creator that I know.
Yeah.
Like anytime someone, even if it's a book that you had no interest in, and it sounds like it'd be really good, you're like, well, that's not my book, so that person should die in fire.
That's right. That's pretty much the way we feel. And it's not that we don't like those people. It's not that we're not happy for those people. I guess it's just we are unhappy for ourselves at that moment.
Well, we're a seething ball of anxiety, constantly terrified of being found out. Um,
Yes.
I mean, it comes from having a job that's like having homework 365 days a year, I think. There's just a lot of built-in anxiety that we spray all over the world.
I guess that's gross.
Uh,
But
but the upside of not going to San Diego is next week you and I aren't going to be exhausted, and we're not
that's
going
true.
to talk over,
Yeah.
and
We're
you're
not
not
gonna have con crud.
you're not going to get in an altercation with a crazy person outside of a hotel.
Yeah, that's true. Last year San Diego was pretty was my I've been to San Diego now for the past, I don't know, 5 or 6 of them. I skipped one, and then before that I'd been to several before that, trying to forge a career path. And last year was the absolute worst uh, San Diego Comic Con I'd ever been to. It was awful. And yes, part of that's because a crazy person wanted to fight me outside the convention hall, because that's always good for your professional career. Um,
You didn't get in a fight, so it's fine.
no, but I would have. I mean, I fully expected that I was going to get in a fight when I walked out of the convention hall.
That's the thing. That's part of the reason this is called Missouri Swagger, because Cullen Bunn, much like my father and every adult I knew as a child, you do not want to tell him you want to fight him unless you want to get punched in the face, because
Yeah.
Cullen is a certain sort of country man that doesn't take lightly to that. I, on the other hand, am a huge wimp and will just back away and use my mouth to get out of the situation.
Well, I don't want to fight anybody, but
I don't want to, but once it gets to that, it's time to hurt someone.
well, you don't want to start a fight, but if a fight starts, you don't want to not finish the fight.
That was my father's mentality.
Yeah.
Again, I am just the coward that's out the door.
Well, my dad always taught. My dad was a much bigger guy than I was. He was big and he was tough and he was not afraid to get in fights. And but he knew that I was not as big as he was, and I never would be. This big guy.
Figure.
And he used to tell me that he'd say, "Son, you're gonna get beaten up pretty bad in a fight." He said, "But just make sure that the other person regrets having gotten in that fight with you, whether or not you get destroyed. Make sure they regret it in some way." So that's
my father tried to impart similar things in me, and he just failed for some reason. For some reason, I have been a coward in that. Not not in other parts of my life. Like, I'm willing to take risks, but when it comes to like throwing hands, I'm just like, I don't care what you think of me. I'm not going to be punched in the face.
well.
Goodbye now.
One day
That's
you and I
always
will
been
get in a
mine.
fight, and we'll see who comes out on top.
Much to my. Well, I mean, like, there are things worth fighting for, obviously, but like someone yelling at you and wanting to fight you is not a good reason.
Yeah, it's just dumb. But yeah, I was actually looking forward to the convention this year. I had a very positive feeling about it, and I was going to avoid the convention hall the entire time, but just take meetings around the convention.
Sure.
But no, I think I'd rather get some work done and get ahead, because, like you said,
That's the hard thing about every con, but
Yeah.
that one massive.
that one in particular, because it's so long and it takes so long to travel there, and it just wipes you out because you're on the go the entire time.
Exhausting. Yeah.
So yeah, instead I'm gonna have the unique feeling of being ahead after San Diego Comic Con. And what's also great is all the editors who are there are going to be so far behind that it's going to make me look doubly
Even
ahead.
further ahead, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, I'm in a weird place where I have several projects that are starting while other projects are ending, and I'm not so desperately behind. So I kind of got to a place where I can kind of take a breather. So if I had gone to San Diego, then yeah, I would have lost all of that lead time, and then all of my new projects would, instead of being like super exciting, would have been terrifying things hanging over my head.
Yeah. That said, I am working on a script right now that is like, it's due now, and I'm a little afraid of turning it in late. So I got, I mean, it's mostly written, but I did the thing that I have told you to tell me never to do, which is I wrote the entire script, all of the action, but no dialogue. Again, I keep falling into this weird trap, and I have done it again, and I'm in misery now because I opened it up this morning to write the dialogue, and I hate doing it. I hate it so much.
See, I don't mind writing it over the art. I was actually just talking to Aaron Gillespie about this earlier today, where I did one of those digital click-through comics, the iPad comics.
Oh, yeah.
And the way you write those is like even looser than, I'm telling the audience, I know you know this, but even looser than Marvel style, where you're just like, this is the basic action of the scene, and then they break it into screens, and then once that's done, you have to go in and put all the dialogue on top. And that book made me so little money per hour because it took me so long to write that way that I think it was like a trial by fire. So now if I get a page back of art, I can pretty quickly write it down. But taking a script that you've completed that has a dialogue on it, and then having to remember like the pacing and what you were going for, and putting that's way worse.
Yeah, it's not smart, and I don't know why I do it. When I write the dialogue, when I'm writing panel descriptions, it's so much easier for me.
Right.
And I know there are a lot of writers still that leave the dialogue off until they get the art. Right. But I'm just not good at it. I'd rather change dialogue based. If the art reflects something different than the dialogue, I'd rather go back over it and change it than leave it off completely. So I don't know why I do that. I think it's the momentary, the immediate sense of I'm completing something because I'm going so fast writing it without the dialogue.
Well, it's also the case that we're the top of we're the starting point.
Right.
So when you get up on a deadline, it's not just a matter of not getting paid or disappointing your editor. Somebody's waiting on you that's supposed to be drawing the thing. So that's what always gets me there. Like, well, screw it. I got to get something drawable,
right.
So that I'm not holding other people up.
Yeah.
And then, but then you're stuck. Like, do you turn it? Because if you turn it in like that, if the editor trusts you, they'll send it to the artist.
Right.
But that son of a bitch is coming back to drop in your lap when you're busy with 3 other things, and you're going to have to do it right then, because then you have publication dates to deal with. So.
Not only that, if you're not careful, the soliloquy that you have in your mind won't fit in the tiny panel the artist is going to draw because you described it incorrectly. So,
yes. Which that might happen anyway. I've had generally it's artists who English isn't their first language.
Yeah.
Where they don't care what words are underneath it, and you end up having to rewrite it anyway. But I kind of
sometimes.
It can be frustrating, but I kind of like the process of rethinking the scene based on what's there, like throwing out whatever you intended, seeing what's actually there, and then doing the version that's best for the story. Like in a perfect world, I would be able to do that with every page always. Right. And I would get paid 4 times as much for each script so that it could do that and still live. But yeah, I don't know. Collaborative take is fun.
So what are you working on this week then? You say you're getting ahead. You're going to use this time.
I'm doing an issue of something really exciting that is basically testing the waters with a new editor, we'll say.
Oh.
So I'm finishing that, and that's been on my plate for a while. It's like a long running thing, so I'm really excited about that. I'm gonna finish that.
But you can't announce anything about it.
No.
We can't even get a scoop on our own show.
I mean, I could say it, but it wouldn't do me any good. So I'm working on that, and then I actually have been the last 2 weeks dealing with the thing I talked about, where I turned a bunch of scripts in to get artists fed, and they were all partial dialogue. So I'm doing revisions because the artist needs to draw that part now, and then doing dialogue on top of those, which has been fun because that's been weighing on me. But
right.
Also, I made no money last week because I only did things I've already been paid for.
Yeah.
Which that's a weird thing. I tend to get money in fits and starts. Like I'll be completely broke for 3 weeks, and then I'll get 6 checks all at once.
Right.
Just a money management situation. But yeah. What is the beeping? What is happening?
It's not here. It's over on your side.
No, I think it's Skype beeping at us.
Why would Skype beep at us? We're awesome. I don't know.
Technology. So yeah, I'm working on that, and then I have a new thing at Marvel that I'm talking to an editor about. So tossing ideas back and forth for that, and I'm working on. Nothing is announced. It just occurs to me that even the thing that I've been doing that is now something, I can't talk about that. My most exciting thing that I'm working on is a create-your-own book at Image that is not announced and won't be announced for some time. But I finally got my work for hire plate cleaned off enough that I can kind of focus on that.
That's awesome.
I'm stoked about that. And it has. I am a weird comic creator, like weird career path, because all of my creator-owned work happened very early, and then I had a long period of doing pitches that went nowhere, and I lied to Marvel to get a job based on books that never saw the light of day. So I have not had a creator-owned book published in like 7 years. Like the last time I put out a creator-owned book was The Answer with Mike Norton, and it came out the same year as my first Marvel book. And so I've got, like, I haven't scratched that itch in so long.
The Answer was your last creator-owned book?
Yeah. I only have 3. I did Gearhead in 2007.
Right.
And then I did Love Struck, which I worked on from 2007 to like 2009, but it came out in 2011, right before. And then The Answer, I want to say, maybe it was a little bit later, but The Answer came out like within the first part of my Marvel career. And that was a thing that I had written for Mike a long time before that. He just got around to drawing it then. So like,
I thought Love Struck came out last. I mean, it doesn't matter. I just, for some reason, I had Love Struck in my head.
Well, The Answer's a weird case too, because it was Mike's baby that I like just came up with some ideas for. And he's like, "Oh, you want to write this?" And I was like, "Absolutely, Mike Norton. Yes, please draw this comic."
Nice.
But it was supposed to be a 12-issue story, and then he sold it to Dark Horse as a 4-issue story. So I had written the first issue of a 12-issue story, and I had 3 issues to finish it. So it's really fun, but it's like a gonzo, strange process to get from point A to point B in that.
Yeah, finally, 10 years or over 10 years into my professional career, I think I've broken myself of the habit of writing a 12-issue outline. I own, it's all 4 issues, 4 or 5 issues now for me, because you never know. And then I'm happy if I get more than that. But I mean, I've gotten burned so many times by writing a long outline, and then you write the first issue, and it just doesn't fit with the rest of it.
Right. Well, there's a challenge too, because once you get on that train, standard attrition says at some point this thing's going to stop making money.
Right.
So do you go all the way to the end of your plan and just lose money for a bit and hope that the trades pick up sales, or do you truncate it? And as anyone who read my Avengers Undercover run can say, if you pull 5 issues out of something, it is a less satisfying story than if you tell your whole plan. So yeah, that's a frustration. But at the same time, like, we got into this because we like long form storytelling.
Yeah.
Like, I love Preacher and Why the Last Man and long running like creator-owned comics, and that is just not financially plausible for most books.
Yeah. It's a lot harder now.
Right.
So
it can happen. Saga's going strong. Southern Bastards is going strong. A lot of great books that go really well, but it's the exception, not the rule.
Right.
Even for geniuses like us with massive fan bases.
Hey, I did 50 issues of The Sixth Gun and 32 of Harrow County. I'm pretty proud of both those runs.
That's ridiculous. That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And that's a testament to how good those books were and how like awesome your fans were.
They were fantastic.
Well, I meant artistically.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
I don't read your horse books. I just look at the pretty pictures.
There are no horses in Harrow. Oh, wait, there are horses in Harrow County. Never mind.
Of course there are. Yeah. So what are you working
on? So the book I'm working on right now is the 3rd issue of As Guardians of the Galaxy. And it's the 3rd issue of a first 5-issue arc. So that means, as one of our editors we used to have would say, I'm trying to combat middle issue syndrome.
Yes.
Which
editors making Daniel Ketchum, and I don't know why you're not giving him credit for his.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, what was Daniel Ketchum? He used to tell us. I mean, I think he said those words to me many times. I'm sure you heard many times as well. That this issue may have suffered from middle issue syndrome, and so I'm stressing over that, just making sure that whatever I put in this issue is moving the story forward in a satisfying way and is elevating the story and elevating the characters. So that's what I'm working on right now, and I think maybe you'll find out when the issue comes out if I pulled it off or not. But you'll find out if I ever finish writing the dialogue for these Asgardian characters.
You'll get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a fun book though.
We should explain how you solve that problem. Daniel's whole thing about middle issue syndrome is when you're telling a 5-issue story or a 6-issue story, the setup is exciting,
yes.
The end is exciting, and there's cool action beats in the middle, but there's usually 2 or 3 issues in the middle where you are just you're doing exposition, you're doing discovery, you're doing all of the slower parts of the story where you usually get up and go get popcorn in the movie. And because these things come out in 20-issue chunks with a month in between, you got to give the reader something to remember, or that part all blurs together. There's got to be something in each issue that begins and ends in that issue, or that is unique to that issue, even if the larger plot is on one of the slower.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is each issue needs to tell have its own beginning, middle, and end, if it can, even though it's a continuing story. And in this case, I have just taken every issue of As Guardians of the Galaxy. I've decided to elevate it, or just to up the game in some way, change things. Change things in a big way, introduce new characters that are going to upset the balance and turn everything on its ear. So in the second issue, I did that. I introduced a bunch of characters that I think will surprise readers that they're there. And then here at the third issue, I'm introducing a whole nother. There's a whole nother element entering to the story as well. And usually I'm hesitant. I do like to throw as many ideas into a book as possible, but it's dangerous sometimes that it overwhelms the reader, or confuses the reader, or just muddies the story. But I think I figured ways to make it happen now that it all seems seamless and it's smooth and will be easy for everybody to enjoy the ride. Again, I hope.
Well, you're brilliant. Fantastic writer. I have nothing but the utmost confidence that you're going to land that.
Thank you so much for your words, coming from a writer as talented as you. And
I too am brilliant
and innovative. That means a lot.
Sure. So we're kind of rambling. We're going to keep these things around 25, 30 minutes, I think, so that we can do it more often. We're going to be a little bit more structured at some point, figure out like different things we can do. But
you didn't even like my countdown at the beginning of the episode, so I don't know how structured you're willing to be.
I think people want to see behind the camera. They want to see that you and I are just two yahoos who turn the camera on and talk.
All right, fair enough.
The counting down when you
but they don't see.
It's adorable.
This is why we're gonna fight.
I also think you and I should do a thing every time we record where we tell some sort of ridiculous story, either about our past or our fathers, or something that like fits the Missouri Swagger name.
All right.
And I'm going to tell a story that explains my father, and also how disappointed he was by the thing I said earlier about being a coward. Just imagine this man. When I was in high school, I went over to visit my father one day. He invited me to come over. And I pull into his driveway, and there is a car sitting in the driveway that I've never seen before. And there is a man hanging out of the driver's side of the car. So his arm is on the gravel driveway. He has vomit, sun-baked vomit, running down his throat, onto his neck, onto his ear, and in his hair. And he has the worst sunburn that I've ever seen on a human being. And it's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So he's lying there. And they just walk past and look at this man. And then I go to my dad's porch and knock on the door, and I'm like, Dad, what? Why? What is happening? And he said, son of a bitch was supposed to be here at 9 a.m. to mow my lawn. And shows up drunk. And I'm like, well, and then so he's just drunk, passed out there. And I said, well, you going to invite him inside? My father's response, as soon as he mows the goddamn lawn. My dad, I like to say that my dad was like a pirate ship captain, where he would take these people, like ne'er-do-wells and not the brightest folks, petty criminals, those sorts of folks, and it was through charisma and his silver tongue could convince them to do manual labor with or for him for like a 6-pack. Because these people just like to be in his orbit, like they like to be around him. So as a child, my dad would oftentimes be surrounded by just the dregs of humanity who he was constantly disappointed in because they were not very competent, but who paid almost nothing to do all of the manual labor of his life. And in this particular instance, that man disappointed him so much that he got to be vomit caked and sunburned in the front yard for hours and hours, and then probably mowed the lawn afterward, for all I know. So yes, that's my father.
I love it. It's reminding me of a story I'll tell on one of our next episodes.
Well, it's your turn. We'll take turns.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
See, that's where we come from. That's what Missouri swagger is. My dad was the king of the Missouri swagger. And yeah. So thanks for listening to us. Sorry, this was kind of off the cuff. We'll get better. Hope
Maybe. I don't set their hopes too high.
Hey, they're low. They've just watched us talk for 25 minutes.
We'll get more okay than we are right now.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, folks.